Alright team, I'm Josh Hayhurst, representing FutureWorldChamp.com. We're going to do a really awesome series of videos all about making your side kicks better. Side kicks are a really interesting kick because it's one of the first techniques you learn, but it's like the last one that you can master. Side kicks are straight line pushing kicks, and you're supposed to just hit with your heel, but as you learn to do one thing, sometimes something else gets a little sloppy. And really what we're going to focus on is correcting some muscle imbalances, all right? So let's start with this specific side kick, all right? So we'll be, I'm gonna kick with my front leg. So as I'm looking straight down the camera, you're gonna be able to see what happens during the kick, all right? So I slide together, and I kick just like that. I bet everybody watching this video has seen someone do a side kick that way. If I had a board in front of you, I would have broken that board. I would have broken the brown, the black board with that kick because my muscles are strong enough. But sometimes we don't take ourselves down a notch to learn like how to correct something because we're so focused on doing it with the most power possible. Instead of like maybe lowering our kick a little bit or breaking it down a little bit to try to master like a certain part. So if you saw that kick again, one person called that a side kick where you pike. I call it bowing when you kick. So what happens is as I kick, I actually bow this way, and it corrects the angle of my foot. So if I'm like this, straight up, when I bow, it turns it over. So it's kind of like we're compensating for lack of technique, all right? So let's think about this. What causes me, as I do a technique, to not stand up straight? Well, the opposite of standing up straight would be bending over. And I always ask kids, what do I look like right now? Like when you're at the grocery store and you see somebody walking all bent over, they would say, an old lady or old man. Yeah, exactly. What happens is, to use some of the people that I know, when you're older, you're retired, you don't get up every day at a certain time and go to work and do this, and you don't have that daily grind, so you have an opportunity to sit and enjoy yourself. You look at the beach, you look out at the big field that you have as your backyard, or you sit and watch The Price is Right all day. And what happens is, we're stuck in this bent over pose. I used to drive to work 30 minutes there and back. So what happens is 1 hour out of every day, 1/24 of my entire life was me stuck in this bent over position. Not to mention working on the computer, watching TV when I got home, sitting and eating dinner. We sit all the time. So we're stuck in this bent position. So no wonder when we kick, we start to bow or we bend over, all right? So one of the problems that could cause you bowing when you kick is these muscles called your hip flexors. There's a lot of fancy names for it. Do the research, go on Google. I'm just gonna call it your hip flexors for right now. For me, the iliopsoas was the biggest problem when I did like massage therapy or when I did the physical therapy. Those were the things that they were all talking about. So there's just a bunch of muscles in your hips. Sometimes they're really hard to get to. One muscle will pull on another muscle, so as one becomes stronger, it causes another one to be overstretched. As one gets weaker, there's so many problems in there. So people have problems with their hips, okay? So what we need to do is some hip flexor stretches, all right? Down at the link or in the comments in the description section of this video, I'm gonna link a couple other videos that I want you guys to check out on how to stretch out your hip flexors, okay? And the next thing is also this yoga pose called the warrior pose. Some people might have heard of the warrior pose if they've done P90X or they've taken a yoga class. The warrior pose is great because what it does, if I have a little bit of space, I'll show you. You point 1 foot away and you stick your hip out or your heel out a little bit further. And if you notice, you're pushing this knee out and it's the exact same position as a side kick. So it really trains your body to be in a good side kick position. If your yoga instructor is there, they'll tell you not to bend over, to push your hips forward, to open up your hips. And that's what you gotta do to have a good side kick. Your hips have to be really, really flexible, all right? So it's not all hamstrings. You don't just get stronger by doing push-ups and sit-ups. You have to have a well-rounded workout routine. You have to do cross-training. You gotta go to a CrossFit class and a ballet class and a yoga class and try all those different things to try and balance your body out, because martial artists needs to have a lot of pushing power, a lot of pulling power, squatting power, lunging, bending. You have to be able to do all that stuff to be successful. All right, so check out the description and some of the links that I'm gonna list below on how to stretch out your hip flexors. Look up the warrior pose or just sign up for a yoga class and try not to bow when you side kick. We need to get that side kick in a straight line, okay? All right, so stretch those hip flexors. Lesson number 1, stretch those hip flexors. No bowing when you side kick. Okay, Josh Ayers with future world champ. Oh yeah, one more thing I forgot to say. So last year I wrote this book. I wanted to help all of my students prepare and make their form spectacular. I wanted it to be the best forms ever. But the problem was they couldn't afford to do private lessons all the time because they don't have the time and I don't have the time, and they wanted to practice at home. I'm teaching them self-defense, but they want to learn forms. They want to do point sparring. It's just not in the day. So we need a way to be more efficient and to really be able to learn how to practice on your own. That's it. So I wrote a book called Become a Forms Master. So what you can do is get an excerpt from the book by going to futureworldchamp.com and signing up for our newsletter, okay? So go do that right away. And if you're interested, I'll send you a link. The Forms Master book is 50 pages, but it's like a year's worth of curriculum. And after a few years, you're gonna learn a new form and you can keep using it. And it's good for instructors too, because it gives you so many cool drills that you can do for all of your students. It gives you the ammo to use during a private lesson. This is how you start a private lesson. This is how you should start teaching one student their form. This is how you should do it, because I know it works. A couple years ago, I started practicing on Monday. I learned my first segment, first technique of my form on Monday. By Friday, following this technique, I felt like I pretty much knew my form. And on Saturday, I got first in forms at the local regional tournament. And in our region, they're not pushovers. These guys are really awesome competitors. So I got invited to district championships. I was like, I got invited to it. But then I used the same skills over a week, and I really focused on doing the things that are in the book. I also had something to prove. I had to prove that the book worked and all the skills worked. And then I became a district champion in 2013. I used the things that's in this Forms Master book to win district championships, and all of you guys can too. So go to futureworldchamp.com. Get onto our newsletter list. Get the Forms Master excerpt, and if you're interested, then you can purchase the book.